Welcome to the Bearded Naked Podcast. I'm Gareth Johnson, and this podcast series is a conversation with Matt, the Bearded Naked Yogi. In this 6-part series, we're exploring the Vrittis, the fluctuations of the mind. Now, this is the 6th and final episode in our series about the Vrittis. So far, we've covered an overview of the Vrittis. We've looked in depth at Pramana. We've identified the false knowledge of Viparita. We've highlighted the challenges of having an overactive imagination as we've looked at Vikalpa. And we've got a bit sleepy with Nidra. What are we tackling in this final episode?
I love getting a bit sleepy with Nidra. So here we are, episode 6, and it's our final episode examining the Vrittis. And today we're going to be looking at what's called Smriti, which is a word that translates to memory, or if we're taking it very literally, that which is remembered. Now, in the context of Indian philosophy, particularly within the yogic tradition, Smriti refers to not only one of the Vrittis themselves, but it also refers to a category of sacred texts that are known as the Shruti scriptures. And it's important here that we see this dual aspect, if you like, of Smriti. When we look at that translation, that which is remembered, we can see how that comes about within the context, literally, of written language down in sacred texts that have been handed down generations, centuries upon centuries.
Because what we remember and how we remember events and emotions is fairly fundamental to the human experience, isn't it?
It is. And it's here that Smriti occupies a very significant place amongst the Vrittis. It really represents a fundamental aspect of the human mind, an aspect that influences our perceptions, our misconceptions, those fluctuations of the mind, and an understanding of the totality of reality in a very, very profound way. At its core, we can say that Smriti is the faculty of remembrance. It's the ability to recall past experiences, knowledge and information. It's the repository, if you like, of our personal history. It's the storeroom of our impressions and memories. These impressions and memories that, as we'll see in this episode, shape our identity and inform our decisions.
And how does Smriti connect to the other types of Vritti that we've been discussing in this series?
So within the framework, let's call it, of the Vrittis, Smriti itself serves as a bridge. It is a link between the past and the present. And this link allows us to draw upon our accumulated wisdom and experiences of the past to navigate the complexities of life now and even into the future. It's through this mental lens of Smriti that we make sense of the world around us. We interpret events occurring within the present in the light of our past experiences. And again, as we mentioned in previous episodes here, there's a sense of inference. There's a sense of projection, a little bit of prediction that goes on with Smriti. But the faculty of Smriti is not just some sort of passive repository of memories and everything just gets shoved in there and it's all fine and, we drag it up as and when we want to. It is a very dynamic and fluid aspect of the human consciousness, of the human mind. Think of it poetically, like a river that flows through time. Our memories are constantly flowing. They are evolving. They're reshaping themselves in responses to new experiences and insights that happen within this life.
One of my favourite literary quotes is, "The past is a foreign country. They do things differently there." Couldn't you argue that if we're being present and mindful and in the moment, that our memories of the past are a bit irrelevant? We can't change what happened yesterday.
In this sense, I guess, Smriti is not just about remembering the past. It's also about actively engaging with it. reflection upon our experiences and the learning that comes from that reflection and engagement. It's said within the yogic philosophy that this process of, or through this process of reflection and introspection, we have the ability to gain a great insight into ourselves. And this insight enriches our understanding of ourselves and of the world at large. But despite its essential role, perhaps, in helping us to shape our perceptions and to develop our understanding of reality, Smriti is not infallible. And like all Vrittis, it's subject to distortion and bias, which are influenced by our emotions, our beliefs, and again, our perceptions, misconceptions. Memories can be coloured by our subjective interpretation of events. And it's this interpretation that leads to distortions. It leads to inaccuracies of our understanding of the past. And moreover here, and perhaps most importantly, Smriti is inherently selective. Smriti will prioritize certain memories over others based on their emotional significance or relevance to our current circumstances. This selective nature of memory can sometimes lead, again, to those biases and to the distortions in that perception of reality. We are constantly filtering our experiences through this lens of Smriti, a lens that includes our preconceived notions and beliefs based upon our past experience. So whilst you're absolutely right that we can do nothing about the past, what's done is done and absolutely deserves to be left where it is, we need to be aware of how the past impacts on our present right here.
That subjective nature of memory is so fascinating because it's absolutely, dependent on your own perspective, that two people can remember an event very differently because of our feelings and our emotions play such an important role in shaping each specific memory. Are memories reliable enough to be of any value?
When we look at Smriti, when we begin to understand this faculty of the mind, and again, let's remember here, there's a positive and negative, if you like, to each of the Vrittis. I think it's important to understand that despite its limitations, despite its hindrances, Smriti is an invaluable tool for navigating the complexities of human existence. It's through this process of remembering and reflecting upon our past experiences, and also by acknowledging and embracing our memories, fallible or infallible, both the joyful and the painful, we can learn from them and we grow as individuals. And again, it all comes down here. How does one work with Smriti? How does one come to understand it and turn it into a more positive, life-affirming force? Again, it's through the practices of self-reflection. It's about being aware in the first place, the power that one's faculty of remembrance has upon our experience. And it's through these practices we learn to discern the difference between objective reality and that subjective interpretation that's imposed upon our experience by our memories. By developing here a very clear and an unbiased awareness of our thoughts and experiences, we have the opportunity to liberate ourselves from the limitations of Smriti, and we have the opportunity to awaken to a much more expansive and an authentic understanding of reality itself.
I guess that's the challenge, isn't it? How do we harness our memories and use them in a positive way while we're navigating our experiences of the world? But what you're saying is that it's sort of starts at, really begins with self-awareness. What are some practical ways that we could actually sort of do that? How do I actually harness those memories in a positive way?
Ultimately, the recognition and understanding of Smriti as a vritti within the yogic philosophy gives us these insights into that complex interplay between memory, perception, and consciousness. It reminds us that our perception of reality is shaped not only by the experiences we have in the present, but again, also by the memories and the impressions that reside within us, those memories and impressions of the past. When working with Nidra, when understanding our own faculty of remembrance, examining our own memories, when one is confronted with new information that challenges a long-held belief about something based on past experiences, one has to have a sense of openness towards perhaps the biggest challenge of all of being a human, the capacity to change one's opinion, change one's direction. People don't like that shit at all. However, this is how one works with Smriti. Smriti is that integral aspect again. It's part of our human experience. We can learn to navigate it with perspective and with discernment. We have the capacity as human beings through the practices of self-awareness, self-reflection, meditative work, that we can navigate the memories. We can use the memories as a source of insight, as an inspiration on that journey of self-discovery and of personal growth. When working with Smriti and also the other Vrittis themselves, they can become a fuel for the process. You know, I think it's interesting, a wonderful quote. It's attributed to the Buddha, but I'm not 100% sure that he actually said it. And it said, there is only 2 mistakes on starting any kind of journey of personal growth or spiritual liberation. 1 is not beginning. 2 is not going all the way.
So there we have it, our 5th and final Vritti. Now, you touched on this just there, but I guess just to wrap up what we've been talking about throughout this series, given everything that we've discussed, how can we take all of this information and use it to inform our yoga practice and our day-to-day lives?
It's here that yoga really comes into its own. And having an awareness of the Vrittis to begin with can be a very interesting process for the mind to experience of itself. You are asking the mind to begin to understand the behavior of itself, the behavior of the mind. And as we said way back when at the start of this season, when undertaking a sincere and wholehearted journey into yoga, one that moves past the external physical practice of yoga, of which millions of people across this world have embraced, and rightfully so, when we start to get into the deeper, more mental aspects of all of this, there will be challenges along the road, aspects of ourselves perhaps that we don't understand, we do not recognize fully, that we wish to understand, that we see as something that is perhaps a little block along that road. The journey of life, let's call it that. Having an understanding of the Vrittis, having an understanding of the fundamental, basic mental fluctuations of the mind provides you with a map. It provides you with a guidebook. It says, all right, Gareth, you've started this journey. This is where we're going. You've mastered your downward facing dog. You've cracked your pranayama. You've smashed your yamas and your niyamas. And now the fun shit begins. This is where we're going. We're going deep into your conscious mind, deep into your personality, your identity. And we're going to examine that. What the Vrittis gives us are signposts. You can expect to face this. You can expect to face that. These are the challenges along the path. Really, if you don't know where you're going, and you don't know what to expect, then how the hell are you going to get there?
That brings us to the end of this episode and of this series of the Bearded Naked podcast. I'm Gareth Johnson. You can find me on Twitter at GTV London. If you want to get in touch with Matt or find out more about his online courses and retreats, head over to his website, thebeardednakedyogi.com.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to season 2 of this podcast. This is the final episode. Gareth and I will be back with season 3, where we'll be examining the kleshas, the deep aversions of the mind. Until then, take very good care of yourselves and keep practicing.